Very to today's edition of Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita. Hope you had a great weekend or having a good start to your week rather, if you're in India. So let's get started without much ado. We'll get started with today's session. Let me share my screen and then we'll get underway. Rahul, are you able to see my screen?
Yes, but not in the yeah, now we can see it.
Okay,
The
great.
presentation.
So let's get started with our opening prayers. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurudevo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Radhe Radhe, good morning, good evening to all of you. Let's get started with our Soul Soup segment. I just came across these things which I thought we could have a little bit of contemplation upon. It's relevant to all of us. Let's embrace our situations and do our best. Some typo, I guess. So this is God's plan. This is how it works, right? God doesn't do the things the way we think He should, but has a perfect plan for your life, and we need to have faith around that. Trust that eventually it'll all fall in place. So, as it is said, there are, three plans. One is our plan for ourselves, one is people's plan for us, and then is third is God's plan. So we all make our plan. This is how it should happen. This is how it should be at this stage of my life, or this is what should be happening to me. And then there are people who keep on telling us that, this is good for us, and this is what we should be doing. And if we are here, you should do that. And that influence is there in a lot of our, a lot of people's life. At least it was there in my initial years. It is always there. So people tell you this is what you should do, and then you think this is what is best for us. But then God has a plan as well, and it trumps both. And then it won't come in manner that you think it would, right? Because it takes time to unfold. And then we just need to have trust along the way. So with that said, and God's plan is always a perfect plan, that faith can do us a lot of good, especially on the journey where a lot of things may not be making sense for us. And it seems like, why is it happening? And, it could really play with our minds. So faith would go a long way in sailing through, navigating through those situations and coming out better and stronger out of those. So with that said, let's move on to our shloka. We'll pick a few hands and then continue on our discussion. We'll continue with 5.23 today. And let me recite it, and then we will get into the topic of our discussion today. Shaknoti haiva yah sodhum praksharira vimokshanat काम क्रोधोद्भवं वेगं सयुक्त स सुखी नरः. Any volunteers? All right, yes, Sudaji, please go ahead.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Shaknoti haiva yah sodum praksharira vimokshanat kama krododbhavam vegam sayukta sasuki naraha. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, very nice, thank you, Udaji. Okay, we can take all the hands. What,
Yeah,
Dinesh?
Radhe Radhe, Dinesh ji.
Go ahead, Dinesh.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Saknoti haiva yasodum praksarir विमोक्षणात् कामक्रोधोद्भवं वेगं स युक्त स सुखी नरः.
Very nice. Thank you, Ganeshi. Aparna ji, please go ahead.
राधे राधे.
Radhe Radhe.
शक्नोति हैव यः सोढुम् प्राक्शरीरविमोक्षणात् कामक्रोधोद्भवं वेगं स युक्तः स सुखी नरः.
Very nice. Thank you. Golub ji, please go ahead.
राधे राधे एवरीवन. राधे राधे. शक्नतो व्योसोढुम् प्राक्शरीरविमोक्षणात् कामक्रोधात् भवं वेगम् स युक्तो स सुखी नरः. Thank you.
Thank you, Golub ji. So in this shloka, Lord Krishna is saying those persons are yogis who, before giving up the body, are able to check the forces of desire and anger, and they alone are happy. So let's try to understand that a little more. Last week we were talking about the birds, animals, pretty much all the species, including demigods, they all have a body. We are given this body for a reason, and the common denominator in all of us is that constant thing, that spark, right, which makes this body sentient, is the soul, right? So we all share that body, but that doesn't make us any special just having that body. It's the soul aspect of it which makes it provides the life force and makes this body sentient. And even all the demigod, man, human, beast, birds, everybody has gotten the material body. And then in the human form, when we get this human body, then the injunction from scriptures is that we cannot limit it for sense pleasures alone, like the hogs and dogs do. Bhagavatam states that human body is not given to us to work hard, continue to work hard to gain sensory gratification, because this is easily accessible to all these species as well. So as humans, we have to go a little deeper, beyond that. And so sense gratification should not be the sole aim, objective of human life, is the key message. Now let's move on. So this is who we are, that sparkling soul that you see, inhabiting a temporary rental, which is the human body, gross body. Now, what does it mean for me? Why am I given this body? You may say that human body is not given for this reason, sensory gratification alone, because those kind of pleasures are available to all the species, animal species as well. And obviously the question would come, then what is it meant for? Why is it given to us? Okay, it is answered as well. He says that tapo divyam, one should undergo penance for transcendental realization. Penance, sacrifice, we'll talk about it. And what will be the result of such penance in human body? Then your existence will be purified. And the next question is, and what will happen when you are purified or your existence is purified? The answer is your existence is purified. You will enjoy Brahma Sukhyam, Brahma Sukham, the unlimited spiritual happiness which our soul has been hankering for eternally. This is what you will get. Okay, and this is what the body is given for. So we have to cure this diseased condition to be able to enjoy unlimited happiness. And happiness is soul's prerogative. We have spoken about this concept. We are the part and parcel of, not puff, tiny fragmental part of the ocean of bliss. And because of this diseased condition of material world, is we are not experiencing that happiness. And whatever happiness we get, it lasts, after a while. Few seconds, few minutes, few hours, could be anything. Real happiness is never ending. On the contrary, it keeps on increasing, and it is ever fresh, and it is infinite in extent. So those attributes are there, the real happiness. And that is why our soul continues to crave for it even after having gotten what we were craving or desiring. Because after a while, again, that dissatisfaction, discontentment sets in. So this is what the human body is given to us for, to understand the deeper principles, to be able to carry out the message as per the scriptural injunctions, which is penance. You have to sacrifice, you have to tolerate and stuff like that. We'll go into a lot more detail. What does it mean? Like, does it mean you have to do a yajna every day, or you have to do some kind of a ritual? No, I mean, we'll talk about that as well. So what human bodies truly needed for this journey. So here is human body. On one hand, you can, associate your happiness, or there are two paths really: world or God. One is the world, where we look at our friends, family, relatives, house, grandparents, our work, everybody around us, right? That is one way where we seek happiness. So there are only two ways. Another is God himself, what scriptures are telling us. And the message is, yes, you need to turn away from world. And this shloka is saying the self-realized soul does not delight in external pleasure. So the one on the top where we have put a cross mark, these are called external pleasures. And he delights in internal pleasures, because if you think about it, God, he's seated within, right? So when you start relishing inside you or from within, that's when, just give me a sec. I need to When you start relishing in self, that's when you become a true yogi. That is what the message is. So it's not that you need to add happiness from outside. That happiness is already inside you, and you need to tap into that fountain of bliss, or that happiness that is already within you, is the key message. How would it happen is what we will talk about. There are certain things we can engage or indulge in to get closer to that happiness which is well within us. We don't have to seek it from outside. It's not like something you need to add from outside to feel that bliss. So this is a question that comes. How do you get that spiritual pleasure, or the happiness, internal happiness that we're talking about, internal pleasure, so to say? There are a few things that you can do. Remembering Krishna's names, God's names, forms, qualities, pastime, right? All those things are there, we've spoken about. So he's given a variety to us. Naam, Roop, Gun, Leela, Dham, and Parikars. You can go to the holy places. You can think about God, his form, his qualities, the katha, right? The other day we were having a Bhagavatam katha by Ramesh Bhai Oza would come in, right? So we relish in that. And when we do that, it takes us closer to that bliss that scriptures are telling us repeatedly that we need to tap into, as opposed to thinking that is something we can acquire from outside. So that is one. Then second is by doing sadhana. Your individual sadhana is very important. It's a practice we need to have, inculcate in our life. The meditation, root dhyan, etc. That is a very must-do practice. Everybody should be engaged in who are on the spiritual path. Right? Ekant sadhana is like the recommended thing. It's like sharpening the axe that will hold you in good stead in long run, and deepen your spiritual practice. So this is something that is a must have on this path. Then what else you can do? By associating with saintly people, you do that, you experience something, right? Because it's like coming in contact with people who like to talk about God, or who have performed so much of austerity. Part of it rubs off on you as well, just by being in their presence and those vibrations. And then by contact with spiritual substances, in a okay, this one, I don't know where did it drop in from. In a regulated manner. What is spiritual substances? It is probably worldly substances in a regulated manner, not spiritually. So probably got typo here. Yes, so the worldly things are there for a reason, and then that needs to be regulated and not made the focal point of our life, where we make it a sole focus or goal of our life, whatever that material happiness is there, right? There's a reason why we have to engage in certain activities. Even we have to work and perform certain activities, for our maintenance of our body or our emotional well-being, but they have to be put in perspective and regulated over time. If you don't regulate it, then it can bring about our downfall. As we have spoken about, that a sense regulation and unregulated life is similar to that being leading a life of an animal. And then as humans, if we continue to do that, then we have done our spiritual journey a huge disservice. Now, someone just like Arjuna may have a question at this point, right? Arjuna is having so many questions, and it is a dialogue that is unfolding between Lord Krishna and Arjuna. It is not a one-way thing. I'm telling you, so you listen, right? So somebody may have this question, which is a very valid question. Yes, Saji, you had a question even before Arjun had a question. Yes, go ahead, please.
No, I just had a question on the earlier slide. is that you said spiritual substances, and I
It's
didn't catch
material.
what that was.
It's material substances in a regulated manner. Okay, so that is material, not spiritual. I think it's a typo.
Oh, okay. Sorry. All right, sounds good.
Yeah, we have to deal with material things in our life, right? Like we have to take care of our finances, we have to deal with money, we have to deal with financial matter, we have to deal with family, we have to deal with relationships, we have to sustain our body by eating. So all those material things which are needed for us to sustain our body, uh, are they all have to be done in a regulated manner, and by putting those things in perspective as opposed to making it a focal point of our life. That is the key message here. Some people, they start finding satisfaction. They try to derive satisfaction from their work, but they become workaholics. And then some people, they make eating or tasting things as a goal of their life because that gives them pleasure. So those kind of things have to be put in perspective, is essentially the message here. Some get overly attached to their relationships and stuff like that. Scriptures say if you do that, then you'll keep repeating here. You may go to Pitri Lok, to your ancestors, if you are overly or excessively attached with your family and relationships, so stuff like that. So it said it has to be done in a regulated manner, understanding the big picture around it. Don't lose sight of the big picture at any point, is the key message. I hope that makes sense. Now, this is the question which may crop up, that somebody can say, yeah, I understand material pleasure is the cause of miseries in the end, but even after knowing this, my desires are not going away. So what should I do? It's a good question, right? Now, Krishna is answering that question in this verse. He said, check the forces of, if you remember the shloka, he said, check the forces of anger, greed, and anger. Check the forces means simply tolerate. Just tolerate. How do we tolerate? That's the question, right? We all know. Let's try to understand it a little deeper. How? Practice. Like any other thing, controlling urges and not giving in to them, and eventually you learn to tolerate them. Like any other thing, we have to practice. It is said that when we were growing up, we did not even know how to turn on one side. Through practice, we learnt it. And a simple act like breathing also requires practice. And there are, even when we started walking, we could not. Now we can run. So everything takes practice. Now you may say tolerate aspect of it. Let's try to understand through some analogies, right? I mean, and otherwise it's like a very cryptic concept. Okay, what do I tolerate? What do you mean by that kind of a deal, right? So we all already know how to tolerate. So let's look at some examples around it. A young boy, when he's sitting exam of 3 hours, now he has a temptation to play or take a break. They do have that, but he doesn't do anything. He'll sit with focus in the hall and just do his examination. He's tolerating it. He's tolerating that temptation. He's not succumbing to that temptation at all. Now we all know here that in summers we all feel hot and we wear thin layers, but no matter how hot it is, we won't go out without clothes in the market or on street, right? I don't know, they'll put you in jail or what will happen if you do that. So even though you're feeling hot, you simply tolerate it. We have to tolerate it. And then there's another example when we are working with our boss and he's chastising us for something, we feel very bad internally, but externally we continue to say, yes, I'll do it, right? It won't happen again. We don't snap back at him, although there's a strong urge we feel from within to do that. So in all these cases, we do tolerate. We continue to tolerate. You have a guy, high flying career person who's on a pretty, that trajectory of making big in life pretty in quick time. I know one of those guys when I was in KPMG. There was a guy who was like have such a high flying career. He would go out and he was just a go-getter. Wherever he'll go, he'll just get, people around him, and then selling things to clients was like second nature to him. Pretty charismatic personality. And people would tell him to take it slow and all, that work was the focal point of his life. And he wouldn't, because he was so much into it and he was good at it. He was deriving kick out of it as well. When you're good at something, you start deriving some kind of kick out of it as well. He's probably in that stage of his life, until one day he was diagnosed with, I think, some serious condition. I don't know, leukemia or something. Not maybe that. He was terminally ill, maybe not leukemia, because that gives you time. And then doctor told him, you have limited time. So just figure out, realign your priorities in life. And the same guy who would not stop at one place, he used to take pride in the fact that I am in, my life is in the aeroplane, I'm always by the suitcase. He confined himself to his home and everything like that, right? So people, basically, the point here is that we know what thing to call. So everything takes a backseat when we tolerate everything, even though we might be feeling the urge. But when something more important comes to us, then we just realign our priorities and we are willing to tolerate. And in this particular case as well, he's saying that simply tolerate those urges, and when you'll tolerate it, it's like an itch. If you continue to scratch it, it will not have good consequences, right? You may develop a rash, or it will come back with a rebound, or it may pain in the long run. That is how our urges are. But if you simply tolerate it, will go away. It's the message that Lord Krishna is giving. And I think in previous shloka as well, in probably 2.41 or somewhere, where he says that मात्रा स्पर्शास्तु कौन्तेय शीतोष्ण सुख दुःखदा आगमा पायनो nitya tanstitikshasva bharata. Tanstitikshas means tolerate. This word tolerate is used, Bhagavad Gita multiple places in different contexts basically. But tolerate is the key. Just learn to tolerate. And when you tolerate, what you get in return is much higher. But then we have to sail through that. It's not going to happen just like that. And like they say that an object, move it, in order to move it, physics tells us, right, that you have to apply the force which is greater than the friction. So similarly, on the other side, in order to go against your natural tendency, you have to apply a force or a determination bigger than the temptation that you're having to begin with. And increasingly with practice, it will get easier and easier and easier, is the promise of Lord in Bhagavad Gita. But you have to practice it. It's not going to happen all by itself that, okay, urge happen, I have to do it, and then it'll be gone. No, it's not going to happen. Urge will come, you have to tolerate it, and then when you'll tolerate it, then it will start becoming increasingly better. And it's just like overcoming friction. In this case, you have to overcome slippage. Any questions so far on what we have spoken about? The examples, why we need to tolerate, and what basically compels us not to tolerate and succumb to the urges that we have. Anything related to that? So this is the key message here. Tomorrow, I think we'll probably pick up the next shloka. But for this one, I think there may be a couple of other aspects that I want to talk about. Now, the other key thing, if I go back to the shloka, is that Lord is saying, okay, we have to pay close attention to these words here. He's saying, before giving up the body, are able to check the forces of desire and anger, and they alone are happy, right? There's the desire we have to give up. It's like tolerate. There's a beautiful share that I had heard from Maharaj's one of his lectures. He had said that on ख्वाहिश is the desire. So he had said, खूब तरसाया है तेरी ख्वाहिशों ने ही तुझे, अब तू ही कुछ ख्वाहिशों को तरसता ही छोड़ दे. That your desires have made you crave for so long. Now let your desires crave, some of your unfulfilled desires crave for a while. So that is the way to counter or neutralize desire, as opposed to trying to satiate them or fulfill them by trying to basically by fulfilling them. That will never happen. And the other important word in this shloka is before giving up the body. I think we spoke about it, but doesn't hurt to um, recap that concept. It has to happen before we give up our body. We cannot overcome this thing at the time of departing this body, when we are departing from this body. Why? Because that experience is very painful. Like birth, death is very painful. And that is God's mechanism of erasing our memories for most part, right? Some residual memories can persist, but these two processes wipe off our previous memories. And then when the impressions of this life fall upon us, then we forget pretty much everything, even if there's some residual memory. So at the time of when you are giving up your body, you cannot um, hit that jackpot of overcoming some of this stuff and becoming spiritually, and that you have arrived spiritually at the time of your death. It's not possible. It's only when you are in your senses, when you're able to think, your faculties are working, if you have practiced it, and then you can call upon it at the time of death. But if you're thinking we could do it when we are dying, it's not doable. It is impossible, giving by that statement, who give a body before giving up the body. So all these things have to happen through contemplation, through practice, while we are alive, when we are in our faculties, and when we are living, basically. With the aspect of it, where you start transcending your body and some of these emotions. And it's not going to happen automatically at the time of death, is the key message. Okay, so the practice has to be done. The sooner we start doing it, the better our odds are, right? It's like if you have more time for preparation, your odds of succeeding increase. And it is said that life is a preparation and death is an examination. So if you are prepared well, we'll do fine. If we are not, then anyway, tourism is waiting for us. So what's the big deal, right? One more. Yes, Rahul.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. There is a comment from Himanshu ji in the chat that if our intellect has the right knowledge that we receive from the Guru, and if we are able to contemplate on that regularly by practicing again and again, we will always be able to do the thing that really matters and also be not able to get entangled in Panch Klesh by Sakshi Bhav, witnessing every thought as a soul. And
True.
without practicing and applying the knowledge received, we will not have inner realization and therefore devotion will not come.
True. Einstein had said that anything that you can apply is true knowledge. The rest all is mere information. So all these concepts are good. I mean, I struggle with it as well. You know all this stuff, but when the moment comes, putting it to practice, first of all, two things can happen. That knowledge coming in at that point, if that is happening, that is also great. That is also grace of God. It doesn't happen. It'll slip. And after it is coming, then you're able to make the right decision. Right? That's where we falter as well. I do it a lot of times. So both things have to fall in place. And that can only happen by two things. One, we have contemplated on that knowledge to an extent where we draw God's grace. That okay, you have contemplated, you're really trying to make an attempt. So now I'm going to make it pakka in your head. And second is you have to exert yourself to overcome those urges, because it will become a second nature only after you have crossed a certain threshold, which only God knows. But the second thing is to practice to control or tolerate those urges, um, which have been tormenting us across lifetimes. So these are the two things, at least my personal takeaways from this one. All right. Anybody else who wants to add anything? Or ask anything? I know I completed it early and that was on purpose. So we'll move a little faster now to subsequent shlokas as well. But this was probably the last one for this shloka. That is why I covered it. There was not much, but we can have a discussion on any concept that you want to talk about or discuss. Let me share stuff on your screen to get the thought process going. Um, this was our soul soup, by the way, God's plan. And do you feel that, what you're thinking is not happening? And then does that stress you over? This could be another one, right? Which can actually make us stress over and worry about situations that are happening or they're not making sense at all. But then we have to be a little patient and let it pan out and see how it unfolds. See, our natural urges tell us to know answers or what should be the perfect thing in this particular situation. But sometimes waiting it out and letting it pan out and having trust that God has a plan for all of us is very, very helpful. It again forces us to draw on our reserves of tolerance, patience, and the tolerate is what we are talking about here as well, because only when we are not willing to tolerate can things, impatience and intolerance can actually lead us to do things and make decisions where we might be working against God's plan as well. That could happen as well. So we got to be patient, we don't need to be tolerant, and that is the key message in today's shloka as well, right? Where God is saying, check the forces of desire and anger. Our desires are telling us, do this, do that, get this, know this, find this, all that stuff could be there, but we need to check that force. It is very important to do that. And checking means swimming against the tide. It is like going against gravity. And that will take effort, right? To become lazy does not take effort. To throw something which has to come down does not take effort. But if you have to take it against the forces, natural force, then it takes effort. And that is where it draws God's grace, when we go against our natural inclinations or tendencies and can tolerate stuff and be patient around it. Okay, any more questions? Or we can do devotional segment, make announcements, and give you, like they say in meetings, happy to give you 20 minutes back for your day. I don't want to do that though. I think everybody's in a contemplative mood today. Yes, Rahul, go ahead.
Yeah, I think Pratyusha ji, let's take that. Yeah, Radhe Radhe Pratyusha ji.
Radhe Radhe Ravji, Radhe Radhe sir, everyone. So actually, I was thinking about one point earlier today, which was
Mhm.
we have material mind and material intellect, right? And they can only love everything that is material. And the whole chapter 5 is actually talking about being equanimous. So I was thinking how the state of equanimous helps in developing love for God.
So two
Uh,
parts to it. Equanimity, and then you said that we are naturally drawn towards material things, right?
hmm,
Yeah, and there is a reason for that, right? Technicality, because we are made up of Maya, material energy of God, and world
hmm,
is also made up of material energy of God. And we have a Sajatiya Sambandh. That means we are cut from the same cloth. We belong to the same clan. And there is a
hmm,
natural affinity and attraction towards things that are like you. Even when we
hmm,
go up to, like, say, Iceland, you see an Asian or an Indian or somebody from your state, you'll have, oh my God, I want to meet you. How did I find you? So there's a natural affinity towards something that is of similar type. And that is why our mind is naturally gravitates towards the world. So that
hmm.
there, and the state of equanimity, yes, go ahead and explain it, how it would help us to get closer to God.
Shall I say?
Yes, yes, please.
Okay, so I was thinking that when we are equanimous, actually we are coming into our natural state, which is the soul level, and at that level, the divinizing of mind happens from material to divine,
Mhm.
and at that stage, the soul only loves God, not the body, not the material thing. Soul loves God. So I think in that respect, when we control all our senses and the Dhamma part that you are talking about, I think that is when we achieve that bliss state, is what
Yeah.
I thought.
No, this is good actually. Let's think, because that's the whole reason of having these sessions where we can think analytically and visualize and to try to understand these concepts. So all these are interfaces to us right now. When we withdraw inside, the first thing that we'd have to cut is what? Our senses.
Hmm,
Our senses are telling us, no, go for it, see this, hear this, taste this, all that stuff. So you withdraw, so you're cutting that layer aspect of it. So you've already, it's like that tortoise who's walking around. The moment it senses some danger, it withdraws its limbs inside. Bhagavad Gita also talks about that, by the way. So
hmm,
those limbs are withdrawn, and when you are withdrawn, your mind is when you're already cut that variable out of it, right? So now your mind, when your mind is peaceful, it is like when you try to look to the bottom, try to see the bottom of a lake, you cannot see. It's very muddy. But when it
hmm,
is tranquil and calm, then you can see through the bottom, because it can be seen clearly. Now, when your mind is rested, you've already gone closer to, because mind is the interface, right, between your senses and your soul. Mind,
hmm,
intellect, I'm just using it both together. And then when it is
hmm,
completely at rest, that is what happens in meditation, when you are in touch with your soul. And when you're in touch with soul, soul is already in touch with super soul, right? That union is established. So very nice. And that is where equanimity helps. Equanimity basically says, no, not, you're not playing to the dance of your, agitated mind. Go to
hmm,
this extreme, go to that extreme. And that will basically clear up that lake. And when that lake is clear, you can get to the bottom of it. You can see through that bottom, and the soul will experience the bliss of. So there's a technicality about it. If you visualize it, that is how it's meant to happen too. Very nice. Thank you for that.
Thank you, sir. Radhe.
Radhe. Yes, Durval?
Before we move to Dhruvil, there is an interesting comment from Tejas ji. God had a plan for Indian cricket team to lose Cricket World Cup 2023 and win T20 World Cup 2024. Just the thought thinking about Thakurji's plan.
Oh, good, you brought in cricket. How can I forget that? I thought I'll talk about that too. Yes. So, yes, Rohit Sharma was saying, yeah, Kohli said God is kind. I think these days he's following Premanandji Maharaj, courtesy Anushka, probably. But yeah, he's become spiritual, and I think it was a befitting farewell he got. I mean, for all the hard work that he has done over the years. Having a World Cup under the belt is always good, right? Rohit Sharma has been a phenomenal captain, and he said the role of destiny. He did not. He said it was destined to happen. That is how it happened, because they have been in situations where they have played better, and everybody said that they're going to win it. It did not happen. So this time it seemed like, yes, they were destined to win. And he said something very spiritual as well. Probably I'll pull it out. I had made a note of it to bring it out. It's like having acceptance around what is happening, and then when it has to happen, it will happen. Have trust on that part of it, right? He said something like that. But yeah, it was a great match. I hope you enjoyed that part. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was after long I saw a full match, but it was well worth it. It could have gone either way, and then finally it was pretty interesting. Yeah. Yes, Dhruval, you wanted to say something as well? Let me stop share.
Radhe, sorry,
Yeah, yeah,
the
okay.
question on the slide that you just stopped sharing. So you had some points listed out for, uh, I think, spiritual happiness. So one question was, does serving others, which is, I guess, more sattvic, or serving God, which could be sattvic or nirguna, is that also falling within that realm of spiritual happiness? Or
Okay, serving others, you think?
yeah, I mean, like, I guess by serving both, serving others and serving God, actually, like, I'd
Okay,
like to know for both.
yeah. So God is not going to come in front of us and say, hey, do this or do that, right? And then serving others is a very nicely directed endeavor, but it is still not perfectly directed. As long as, I mean, unless, of course, you are bringing God into the mix. So let's say you're serving others. You go up now, there are different possibilities. Let's take an example to drive home the point here. Let's say you decide to offer food to people, okay, or maybe beggars or somebody. So now there are multiple ways of the same act. So you're giving food to somebody who's hungry. One attitude could be that, you know, let me show him how insignificant this person is and how great I am, right? That could be tamasic attitude. You're giving food. Second could be you're giving food to somebody and you want people to look at you so that they can see how great you are. Okay? You want some kind of an accolade, endorsement, and some kind of a praise from others. Then that becomes rajasic. Then third, you are doing sattvic. Sattvic would be you just want to help somebody. Okay, you were moved by pity, looking at somebody who's hungry, and you want to help them, genuinely want to help them. However, you are still thinking, I'm doing it. So, in heart of hearts or hearts of heart, whatever it is, you are giving a pat to yourself. You are patting yourself that I'm doing it. And you are not able to get rid of that ego that I am the doer. See how great I am. You're not telling it to anybody, but inside you are thinking good. So you're deriving that happiness for yourself. That becomes sattvic pleasure. And beyond that is you offer that to somebody and then thank God, gratitude to God, that God, thank you. You chose me as an instrument. Who am I to give it to anybody? You chose me as an instrument to get somebody fed today. So thank you for that opportunity. Now you have brought God into the mix. That becomes nirgun and divine. So the same act, but the thought that you are carrying around that would determine the result you will get out of it. It is difficult for people to get out of sattvic happiness because people who are already into philanthropy, they help people, right? They may be helping the country and those kind of things. That is already in sattvic scene. So they derive pleasure out of it. And it's difficult to get out of that because they're already satisfied. You know, what else? I mean, we are good, honest people. We are helping people. So sattvic people are even more difficult to get out to the next mode because now you are doing it, but still you are, your ego is still there. You are not getting rid of that pride that I am not the doer. So that differentiates between a ticket to heaven and a ticket to God's abode. That is the differentiator. Now, Sattvic will only give you good results, but it is well directed, but not perfectly directed. Make sense? Yes, Himanshu?
Radhe Radhe everyone. Radhe Radhe Nitinji. I was just saying that in all of these points, I think faith is the most important thing because equanimity will come only if we have faith on the Guru and God. And because then we will understand that whatever is happening with me, it's because of my supreme plan, like the God, like God has for me. And then we will be easily able to attach all our whatever we are doing, actions or intentions, towards the service of Guru and God, right?
True. Good point,
uh,
man.
because I have seen that, like a lot of times, this was a very important point, that when we do the seva, are we actually having those 2 points, that thank you for giving me this opportunity, and actually having that gratitude bhav, that yeah, we are the instruments.
Right. True. Good point. Thank you. Rahul, you wanted to add something? So yeah, by the way, Rohit had said that this was written, of course, it was, but if before the match we knew it was written in the destiny, then it would have been so easy. So you continue to do your best because you don't know what is there in your destiny, right? So we should not be fatalist, destiny driven. We still have to do what we need to do. If it's there, it's there. You would know that, okay, something was meant to happen and it happened, but you still have to do your best and not be fatalist in our life. Yes, Rahul.
Yeah, Dhruvil says the same thing, destiny and free will. And
True. We've spoken about this, right? Destiny, free will kind of a deal. There are three aspects to it. One is your prarabdha, which is fixed. One is your kriyaman, that you are making choices at every moment. And then what you end up getting is somewhere in between prarabdha and your kriyaman. So your past kriyaman is your present prarabdha, and your present kriyaman will be your future prarabdha. And then there is a
there are
sarchakra. That is anyway a stockpile of ocean that we have from our previous karmas. That, yeah. Okay, what
there are
else?
two more questions in the chat. One is from Sri Ramya ji. She wanted to check on tolerating difficulties in execution of dharma, but do not tolerate or stay quiet on adharma. So that is what she's saying. That is she getting it right, like in the right
True.
context?
Tolerate doesn't mean that, yeah, it has to be contextual, right? So if you see bad things happening and it's well within your power to do something about it, then that doesn't mean you tolerate everything. Yeah. Tolerate means the things that we are talking about, the urges of our senses here, not tolerate anything and everything. Urges of your senses, which is directed at gratification. That is what the tolerate we're talking about here. That's right, Shriram. Yeah. That doesn't mean keep on tolerating everything.
And another one from Ajit ji. Can we say that Sattvic people live a long life in comparison to others?
I mean, it will be an interesting statistic to gather if you can derive some kind of a correlation between the two. But if you think logically about it, of course, it's driven through, part of it is your prarabdha and stuff like that. But think people who are at Sattvic gives you pleasure and sense of contentment. So your mind will be less stressful and worry, and it's in giving anyway you get relish some kind of a bliss. So for people who are generally happier and more contented in life and givers, of course, their odds of living, at least they will not undergo some of the things like which are related to those psychosomatic diseases we have. So their odds are lesser if you think at it that way. So yeah, it makes logical sense, but it's not a factor of that alone. But yeah, it'll be an interesting statistic to gather if somebody could do that. Happier people live longer. I think that's a fact too. In fact, there was a study carried out, I think, people who live long, some of the regions of the world where people go on to live for long, octogenarian and I don't know what's the word for centenarian, people who live that long. My dada, by the way, he went on to live for 102 years. I don't know how he managed that. And his faculties failed, but he made up for it. He would read the newspaper even at the age of 100 by, looking like a lens and stuff like that. Pretty impressive. So they did a study and they found, one of the reasons or one of the common denominators they found across those regions where people go on to live for a longer life is they're happy people, they're content people, they have a good social circle, right? So those kind of factors they were trying to put together. But yeah, a happy state of mind definitely leads to longevity because you're not introducing unnecessary stress on your body through your mind, for sure. And by the way, in one of the
Himanshu,
regions, they used to drink a lot of fermented kombucha as well. Okay, so I drink kombucha once in a while with less sugar. That is good for your body. Okay. organic one. Yes, Rahul.
Himanshu ji has added in the comments that if we have a solution for something or some situation, we should go ahead. But if not, we should simply tolerate and leave it at the hands of God.
Yeah, I mean, it is said you cure it or you endure it. There's no third. If you cure it. If you can't, then endure it. What is the third option? There's no other third option, right? So we need to be practical around that situation.
And Shremya ji adds that her uncle was very sattvic, but probably lost in a car crash. Since then, she started to believe that God would have numbered our days before we are even born.
Yeah, a lot of things. It's a lot of variables are at play, not just the sattvic mode here. Right? Death can come anytime to anybody, and that's a hard reality of life for sure. And that is why it's even more important for us to think about God and do take our spirituality seriously and make the most of this human life, because again, nobody knows when their exit is planned. It could happen to anybody. We see it happening left, right, and center, anyways, around the world. What else? Are we good then? No more questions. You can fill out the feedback tracker, Rahul. Have you posted that?
Yes, and I think we can make few announcements about the upcoming family
Sure.
camp, which is
Do
only a
that.
few days. Yeah,
Feedback tracker, and then we can do a couple of chants and we can wrap up early. That's fine.
yeah.
Go
The
ahead.
feedback tracker is already there in the chat. But I just wanted to remind everyone that you can participate in the upcoming family camp online or in person if you are in and around Dallas or planning to visit Dallas from July 4th to July 10th. And then there is a youth leadership program also from July 12th to July 13th. So do check it out. The links are already there in the chat. Anything else you wanted to add, Nitinji, or maybe spill some beans about some secrets which we will be revealing during the family camp?
Secrets during the family camp. We are going to have what do you call an amazing icebreaker, is what I'm hearing. So please come over. They'll have some team event, and this time I think the JKO Idol will be with a bit of a twist. You will be working as a team, not just during the JKO Idol, but even in the lead up to that as well. So that is the only beans I can spill or I'm aware of, Rahul. Sorry to disappoint you.
Can we take Samiranji's? Yeah.
Yes, Samiran, I like your hairband. It reminds me of Roger Federer.
Thank you. Wimbledon is coming. Yeah. Radhe Radhe, I wanted to say that when we talk about endure and um, cure and endure, mm,
Sure.
I when we associate ourselves with uh, helpers around, relatives around, and whomsoever we tell friends or whatever, there is a fair chance, and most of the time it happens that we tend to depend on them. My brother is there, my this is there, parents are there. But how can one become solely dependent, like ashray towards God in anything? Like in anything that problem happens, right? In this time and age of Kali Yuga, like a
Right.
true
So,
saint, when like just for an example, if I say that when a saint is staying in a jungle to after he has taken renunciation, he has to go through a lot, like natural calamities, this, that, everything. But he is only dependent on the form or name of God. So, as worldly people, how can we do that?
I think, I don't know.
Studying all the help
It's one of
around.
the practice we have to do where even when we get help from people around, like our family and all, right, we put it into perspective rather than thinking they are the source of happiness and I can rely on them. So I'll tell you a story. Or there was a guy, his ship was sinking, and people said, "Hey, come over. We've got a lifeboat, and let's move to safety to the shores before it." He said, "No, if God is there, He will save me. I'm only dependent on God." And then after a while, some more came in, and there was a tire spare tire. He said, "Latch on to that, and then you will be saved. Otherwise, the ship is going to fall, sink." He said, no, if God is there, he'll save me. And then the chopper comes, and chopper says, give me your hand. The ship is going to sink. He said, no, if God is there, he'll save me. And finally, the ship sinks and he dies. So he goes and meet God, and God says, he says, God, I always trusted you. Why didn't you save me? He said, who do you think that lifeboat and that tire and that helicopter was sent to you by? So the point here is that God may not directly do that, but then even the help that we get around it, right? We can always put a perspective. God is arranging that. That means we don't build a dependency on that. If you get a help from somebody, again, since God arranged for it, it's a journey, right? The Draupadi surrender happened. What she did not immediately surrender to Krishna, right? When she was being disrobed, she started with her husband. She was dependent on them. They could not help her. Then she looked at the whole court that the elders are going to help her out. They also did not help. Then she tried her own strength, that my strength is enough to save me. That also did not help. And then she surrendered to God. So in her case, it happened. She was a Panchkanya and probably part of the Leela as well. But in our case, we have to see when the situations will come that the going gets tough. It's not making sense. Life, nothing is making sense. That's when you have to rely on God and say, hey, I am, you know, I'm very, very weak. I just need your help in this. Those are those things that we need to practice. And when we continue to practice, maybe one day we will reach a stage where saints are, because the saints are not made in one day. They would have practiced this sentiment, this emotion, in so many lifetimes until it became their second nature, that okay, I know, God is there, and sometime it will happen. Like, you think of so many ascetics who are sitting, who are completely ashrit on a food. If somebody will come and throw something their way, they will eat, otherwise they will not. They are dependent. They're fully surrendered in that sense. And it happens. It's not that they will die of famine, and so God does arrange for that, but that is a practice. So in these kind of situation, at least for worldly, for people like us, whenever some hardship comes, whenever things are happen, and even when we are getting help from somebody, we can always bring in that perspective that God arranged it, rather than thinking, oh my God, this person is my near and dear one, he's helpful and I should need to be dependent on him. Maybe God is inspiring him to do that. So keep God at the back of your mind, and especially when we cannot do anything about, have faith in his plan. So when we practice this sentiment, the hope is one of these days it will become our second nature, and in one of our lifetimes we are going to crack this puzzle of doing that complete surrender. Should not lose
Yeah,
that picture ever, and have acceptance around whatever is happening, rather than complaining, why is it happening? This should not have happened. Only if this thing had happened, I would have been happy. All that stuff, we need to refrain from that thinking, is the best I can think of. I hope that answers some part of your question.
thank you, Nitin. Yes, yes, absolutely.
No worries. Kumarji, last one, and then we'll move to our devotional segment. Go ahead, Kumarji. Jai Shri Ram, Jai Hanuman.
Jai Shri Ram, Jai Hanuman, everyone.
Yeah.
So, couple of things. One is I'll start with some humor here. So, how do we know God can be in one place and next minute he can be in a different place, right? Now, if you see our videos, Shyam was in Vancouver last meeting, and this meeting he can move from place to place real fast. Anyways,
Gurugram.
so yeah, Gurugram. I think it was called Gurgaon, right? Is that what is changed as Gurugram?
I think it's a moot point. So
Okay.
what is the next thing? Yeah, let's.
Okay, second point. So someone asked, if you're happy, does it mean long life? It does not mean it at all. So what does it mean? If
Your
you're
voice,
happy, it just means you're happy. That's it. So it doesn't elongate your life, but there are certain things,
your voice
Japanese
is
principle called
your voice is very
ikigai,
choppy, Kumarji. You may want to
where
read.
you have a purpose for your life.
Kumarji, I think your voice is
So
getting
I
broken.
Hey,
have
Kumarji, your voice
seen
is choppy. You need to
people
rejoin.
who get old.
And even if when we mute him, yeah, I think
Yeah.
not he's muted. Yes.
Kumarji, your voice is very choppy. You may want to rejoin. We are barely able to hear you. It's very, very choppy. Nevertheless, I think one of the questions he had was, is it Gurgaon or Gurugram? I think it has been renamed, so that is settled already. Let's move on to our devotional segment. Rahul, if you can pull it up.
Yeah, sure.
We have 5 minutes and then we can wrap it up. Please fill out the feedback tracker. If you have any questions, we'll continue tomorrow on the next shloka.
I hope you can see that the last one here, Meri Maiya.
Yes, go ahead. Who's going to sing that?
Maybe Nitinji, you can do the honors, or maybe I can start.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Rahul. Okay.
Meri Maiya, Govind Radhe, Hol Ram Shyam Maiya, Kaki Bata De. Yeah, let's take Pratyusha ji. Yeah,
Go ahead, Pratyusha.
Radhe Radhe Pratyusha ji.
Radhe Radhe.
मेरी मैया गोविंद राधे होड़ राम श्याम मैया काके बता दे राधे राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे 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 गोविंद गोविंद राधे.
Beautiful, Pratyusha. Very nice. Do we have the translation as well, Rahul, on this PDF? Maybe
Yeah,
scroll
it is
up.
there actually on the top. So yeah.
Okay, no worries. Shyamji, go ahead,
Yeah.
please. And welcome
We
back.
can show the translation right at the end. Yeah.
Sure. Go ahead, Shyamji.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe Shyamji.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Radhe Radhe. मेरी मैया गोविंद राधे होड़ राम श्याम मैया काकी बता दे राधे 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 गोविंद गोविंद राधे 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 गोविंद गोविंद राधे Radhe Radhe.
Okay, Shyamji. So how does it feel to you singing your own name?
I feel blessed. God has really been kind to me. I have no words for that. Really
Yes.
kind to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, Udayji, please go ahead.
Yeah, we have 4 more hands, but yeah, let's take Udayji. Yeah, Radhe Radhe Udayji.
3 more minutes, so yeah, we
राधे
can
राधे
continuously.
मेरी मैया गोविंद राधे होड़ राम श्याम मैया काकी बता दे राधे राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे 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 गोविंद गोविंद राधे. Thank you.
Dineshji, please.
राधे राधे. मेरी मैया गोविंद राधे होड़ राम श्याम मैया काकी बता दे राधे राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे 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 गोविंद गोविंद राधे.
Very
Radhe
nice.
Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Lakshmiji, next one. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe Lakshmi ji.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe.
Your voice is choppy, Lakshmiji. You may want to join. Kumarji, you wanted to say something or sing?
Yeah, Jai Shri Ram, Jai Hanuman. Yeah, wanted to just finish my thoughts. So basically, if you see Adi Shankara or Jesus Christ, they all lived only till 32. So there is no correlation between being happy and living a long life. But we don't have any control over it either. So best is to just be happy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what I've seen is for people who have a purpose in life, they are better able to be happy. And this is what is told in the Japanese technique called Ikigai. If you guys want to just Google it. So basically, and how do we be happy? Just do good, be good, and think good, do good, and you'll feel good. Thank you. Jai Shri Ram.
Thank you. Yes, having a purpose is Very important. I think it is also correlated with longevity. When you have a strong purpose, you have a strong reason to live, then yes, it's our physiology or our internal system also supports that. We can talk about that more, and there are a lot of stories around that as well. So good point. Thank you. So with that said, I think we come to the end of today's session. Yeah,
So
meaning.
Nitinji, just wanted to show that meaning because there are multiple people in the chat asking about that. Yeah, those first two lines are the actual meanings.
Okay, I can sing that and we can wrap it up. Can you scroll up? Sham
Yeah,
and Ram are fighting and they ask Yashoda, are you my Maya or his? Because apparently Krishna had a different color, right? So they would tease him that you are not our true brother, you have a different color altogether. So you are from another mother or brother from another mother and things like that. So yeah, they are teasing him on that. So very nice. We'll continue on that. So thank you again, everybody, for your wonderful participation. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Radhe Radhe. Good night. Good day from my side. Thank you.
Radhe Radhe.